Welcome once again to our video series, Simplified Tibetan Book of the Dead for Non-Tibetans. If this is your first time joining us, this series presents a simple adaptation of the ancient Tibetan teachings on the intermediate state after death, explained in language that is familiar to followers of Theravada Buddhism and suitable for viewers from Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, and all those who wish to understand these profound teachings more clearly. Before we begin, it is important to remember that the purpose of this series is not to create fear. Rather, it is to prepare us for the greatest journey every one of us must eventually undertake, the journey beyond death. Just as we carefully prepare for an important journey during our lifetime, we should also prepare for the one journey that cannot be avoided. The more familiar we become with these experiences while we are alive, the greater our chance of remaining calm, wise, and mindful when our own time arrives. In the previous 3 episodes, we explored the extraordinary events that occur immediately after the final breath leaves the physical body. We learned that although the body dies, consciousness does not cease. The stream of consciousness continues, supported by karma and craving, giving rise to what the Theravada tradition commonly calls the Gandhabba, the subtle intermediate state being that exists between one life and the next. Immediately after death, the deceased experiences what the Tibetan tradition describes as the first sign of Nibbana, a brilliant, all-pervading luminosity unlike anything experienced during ordinary human life. Soon afterward comes the second sign, another profound manifestation of radiant awareness. Yet for most ordinary beings, these sublime opportunities pass unnoticed. Why? Because the mind is still overwhelmed by confusion. The deceased has not yet understood that death has actually occurred. The habits of countless years spent living through a physical body continue to dominate the mind. The person still believes they are alive. They attempt to speak to family members. They try to touch familiar objects. They become puzzled when no one responds. They wonder why nobody can hear them. This confusion continues for what, in human time, is roughly 3 to 4 days. Only gradually does the reality begin to unfold. Today, we arrive at one of the most significant turning points in the entire journey. The great shock has begun to fade. The cloud of confusion slowly lifts. The departed person begins to recognize an astonishing truth. I have died. This realization does not occur suddenly. It develops gradually, like someone slowly awakening from an unusually vivid dream. At first, there is disbelief, then uncertainty, finally acceptance. The mind begins to understand that the familiar human life has ended. This marks the true beginning of existence as a Gandharva. From this point onward, the Tibetan Book of the Dead instructs those who are reading beside the body to speak directly to the deceased. The following words should be read gently, lovingly, and repeatedly throughout the coming days. Dear departed one, for the past few days you have remained in a state of bewilderment. The sudden separation from your physical body brought about great shock. Your mind could not fully understand what had happened. Now, little by little, that confusion is fading. you are beginning to realize that your earthly life has come to an end. Do not become frightened. What you are now experiencing is perfectly natural. Every being who dies must pass through this stage. You have not disappeared. You have not ceased to exist. You have simply entered another phase of your long journey through samsara. Think of it as a newborn child entering the world. A baby leaves the safety of its mother's womb and suddenly encounters an entirely unfamiliar environment. Everything is new. Everything feels strange. Yet gradually, the child adapts. In exactly the same way, you are now becoming accustomed to your new existence. There is no need for fear. Remain calm. Remain observant. Remain mindful. From today onward, you will experience many extraordinary events. Some will be beautiful beyond imagination. Others may appear frightening. Some will seem wonderfully peaceful. Others may seem intensely real and emotionally overwhelming. But remember this above all else. Everything you experience arises through the combined influence of your own mind, your accumulated karma, and the natural laws governing this intermediate state. Nothing appears randomly. Nothing is without cause. Every vision reflects conditions that already exist within your own stream of consciousness. Therefore, whatever appears before you today, do not react with panic. Observe calmly. Remain mindful. Do not cling. Do not resist. Simply understand. These instructions are intended not only for the departed, but also for family members and friends who lovingly read these words aloud. According to both the Tibetan tradition and many Buddhist cultures, hearing remains one of the final faculties to fade after physical death. Even after the body has ceased functioning, consciousness may still perceive spoken words. Whether or not we fully understand the mechanics of this process, reading these instructions with sincerity creates wholesome conditions. It also fills the minds of the living with compassion, loving kindness, and wisdom. When an ordinary person dies, it is karma alone that determines the experiences they encounter. Wholesome karma gives rise to peaceful and uplifting experiences. Unwholesome karma may produce fearful and disturbing visions. For this reason, these instructions should not be read only once. They should be read repeatedly throughout the entire period during which the Gandhabba remains in the intermediate state. According to the Tibetan tradition, this period may last up to 49 days. For some beings, it may be much shorter. For others, it may extend nearly the full duration. No one can know beforehand. Therefore, these instructions are beneficial throughout the entire period. Each reading helps remind the departed to remain calm, mindful, fearless, and detached from whatever visions arise. One of the first discoveries the Gandhabba makes is that time no longer feels the same. Without a physical brain, without physical eyes, without ears, without sunlight, without the rising and setting of the sun, the ordinary way of measuring time disappears. There is no bright morning, no afternoon, no evening, no midnight. Instead, everything seems to exist within a soft twilight. The surroundings appear dimly illuminated, not completely dark, yet never fully bright. The same gentle half-light continues without interruption. There are no stars overhead, no moon crossing the sky, no sunrise announcing a new day. Everything feels unfamiliar. Everything seems strangely timeless. For someone who has spent an entire lifetime governed by clocks, calendars, daylight, and darkness, this alone can be deeply unsettling. Yet gradually, you will become accustomed to it. Now that the shock of death has passed, an entirely new chapter of your journey begins. Today, you awaken fully as a Gandharva. The world around you has changed, yet the greatest changes are still to come. In the next part of this episode, we shall examine the remarkable visions that may begin appearing before you, and we shall discuss an important editorial note explaining why some modern accounts of near-death experiences differ from the ancient descriptions preserved in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Until then, remain calm, remain mindful, and remember, whatever appears before you, do not be afraid. For the mind that remains steady in wisdom can never truly be overcome. This is where we'll pick up in our next episode, the strange, disorienting days that follow, and what this tradition suggests we can do to prepare for them long before we ever reach this threshold ourselves. This video series, How We Receive Our Next Birth, are based on my book, composed as a simple adaptation of the Tibetan Book of the Dead for non-Tibetan Buddhists, as the original book is too complicated for an ordinary person. This book I originally wrote in 1995 is available for download for free in English and Sinhalese languages, and it will also be translated to Russian and Thai languages as well in the near future. The download links are in the description and also in the first comment. Please subscribe to watch the full series. May all beings be free from the sufferings of samsara.